We're back in action, baby. Very exciting guest on today. This is conducted over the power of Instagram Live. So I'm going to add in my guest here now. It is Conor from Slow Roast. This might go quiet for next. And we're back. Right, very exciting guest. Conor, who along with his partner Sarah own Slow Roast in Loughrea. So many people in Galway would know. Conor, your time, my friend.
I joined. I'm in, yeah?
You're in, sir. You see me and hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect. Spot on.
Deadly. I was just in the middle of doing the introduction, so let me carry on that very quickly. So,
Right.
let me go straight into that actually with the introduction. During COVID, you and your other half, Sarah, decided to open up a sandwich bar in the
Yeah.
midst of a global pandemic in a small town outside a larger small city in Galway. Talk to me about that.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster when you say it like that, doesn't it? I suppose it was a strange time, but I suppose given my previous career as a nurse too, that was very, very tough to get to the end of that degree and maybe feeling yourself that it wasn't exactly what you wanted to be doing at that time in life. You know what I mean? It's always something that I could maybe come back to or, revisit. There was aspects of it I absolutely loved. But at that time, I kind of felt like, it was a bit of a jump and see how it goes kind of scenario for me and Sarah. She was looking to do something exciting too. She had just finished her degrees. And, we saw the little unit. It was actually, I think it was a tanning studio and beauticians at the start. It had never been a food business before, so it was real start from scratch, see how it goes, and it worked out pretty okay in the end. But yeah, it was a funny time to have to decide what were we wanting to do, where were we wanting to be in life, and I suppose I'm very glad we did take the leap in the end, and it did work out, which some people would definitely have said it was a nuts time, but I suppose when it was takeaway, people were still in that sort of takeaway mood. They
Yeah.
were still doing that sort of working remote, only popping out for the lunch breaks, going straight homes. Like we were wearing masks for the first year we were in there, which it feels like a lifetime ago now, thanks to the God. But you know, it's changed so much in the last 3 years. It's been a real tough slog now. In
Yeah.
fairness,
When you started the early stages, what was the kind of the like what were you going to do different than maybe every other sandwich bar? What was the initial idea?
the big idea behind Slow Roast, and it has stayed relatively steady to its original roots, but obviously some diversification has to happen at some stage. It was always going to be like a really impressive business over in London as Sandwich at the moment. It was going to be specific to sandwiches. That's what it was going to do, and it was going to attempt to do them extremely well, as best as we possibly could do them anyways. We'd have a bit of fun with the specials, but it was simple food that people would eat. It was nothing too off the beaten path. It was something that you could rely on to be very consistent and that we could make consistent for the customer. Because I think that's the big thing for, if you pick a type of food that you're in love with, and I find a lot of businesses do this and are successful off the back of it, if you obsess over a certain type of cuisine, so if you're a burger joint and you do them extremely well and you're known for that. Or like in America, hot dog places or somewhere that's known for like yeah, they're what are they called? Philly cheeses and stuff
Yeah.
like that. You know what I mean? It was always the idea to try and have it is a bit of American influence because all the videos, all the research I do would be off like TikTok reels and all these YouTube shorts and stuff, and it's mostly the American influence that you see coming from customer service, innovative trends, all that kind of thing. So we said to ourselves, if we're going to do something, we'll do a nice cup of coffee, I will do a nice sandwich, and we'll go from there. We'll figure out the other bits and pieces as we go along, and we've diversified into different bits and pieces you can add to your sandwiches and the roast potatoes and different things like that now. But it's still, to its core, it is a sandwich shop. You know what you're getting when you go there, which can be
Yeah.
difficult too.
True. A couple of comments came in there. One person said best toasties ever, and then someone else said best sandwiches in the world, which
Cool.
is a good compliment to get.
Very, very much so. Good compliment to get chuffed.
Yeah. So I'm interested to chat to you, Connor, about opening up a business in a small regional town like Loughrea, where ultimately, although that person says the best sandwiches in the world, people aren't going to be flying in from New York or Dublin, or you know what I mean. You're kind of reliant on the customer base there.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're like focused on in terms of engaging and bringing that community on board?
Absolutely. It's like even from the day the thing that myself and Sarah always said from the day we opened up is that when people walk through our door, you're going to hit them with something that is few and far between nowadays. It's an overwhelming sense of welcome, which we think is extremely important, and it does not matter if you're there to get a Kinder Bueno chocolate bar or the Sunday roast sandwich. You know, you're going to be treated the same. It's not about how much you spend in a place. It's going to be part of the community in the sense of if you go there, and I suppose this is coming from Sarah, like, you know, she's always been an incredibly kind, welcoming, warm person, and that meant that her personality would be lent to that kind of hospitality side of things extremely well. And then I had the caring profession where we kind of both our values aligned in the sense of when someone walks in through the door, you don't know what the story is, you don't know how their day is going. So it's incredibly important to us as a community, as to be part of the town of Loughrea. Anyone who walks into the door feels extremely welcome. And I think that's incredibly important when you are in a small town, because like you said, people who walk through your door, the people you get to know on a first name basis, you nearly know what they're going to order before they even open their mouth. So you nearly have it on
Yeah,
the grill before they've even said it. That's so important when you are in a small town. This is not in any ways an insult to any business, but like say in big cities like Dublin, you can have a semi amount of distance from your customers because in general you might see them once a week or you might see them once ever. Whereas if you're in a small town, it's so important you do build these relationships, and you know they're the people that keep the doors open. There's the people that give the jobs to the guys that we have working for us. Do you know what I mean?
deadly. Yeah. Another comment there. My daughter loves going there to play board games and get a lunch.
Yeah,
So,
like that's another thing too. Like, you know, we did say like, you know, you could do coin operated machines and all this kind of thing, but we just sort of said if we have games here, which I've always liked the idea in any craft beer bars, they seem to be kind of the first ones to sort of throw out Jenga and different things like that to leave them on a shelf, which I always thought was a fantastic idea. Because, you know, conversation's wonderful and lovely like that, but it's nice to make memories over silly things you used to do when you were a child too. So it's lovely to see anyone from their granny playing against them on the Street Fighter machine or playing Jenga with them or, you know, just doing things that might not be something the kids even do anymore since technology's become so, you know, phone all the time or playing games on their phone. It's nice to be present and with family and, you know, make memories and that kind of thing. So it's lovely people do really appreciate the games and stuff like that that they've been provided for them.
deadly. I have two final ones here, Connor. We could definitely chat all day.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely, yeah.
let me just on a side. I got a question in there. How many hours a week as an owner did you put down at the beginning to get established?
All the hours of the week. I'm not messing. No, like it does. You hear people talk about it in such a way. Oh, you need to be putting in these 80, 90 hours a week and all this kind of thing. It's funny. Like your actual physical engagement with the business might not be that, but in ways, myself and Sarah go home talk about ideas. You
Hmm.
could say something while you're sitting down watching a movie on the couch. It becomes like a baby, like, you know, it becomes like a child to you, like, you know, it is something that's always needing taken care of. There's always things that need to be developed or fixed and different things like that. So it is. How many hours did we put down a week getting started? Well, like we were the only two employees, so whatever we did, we got outcomes from, you know, that kind of way. So if you didn't do something, if you didn't try put your hand to something that, you know, you didn't know how to do beforehand, whether just even as simple as putting together your stainless steel tables, putting together some of your equipment, and you know maybe doing some simple jobs like a little bit of plumbing, putting together a tap and all this kind of thing. You
Yeah,
just do everything because you know it was your money you were spending. You know that kind of way. You
yeah.
took unless you've got one of these big budgets where you're lucky enough to have investors and stuff. You can't afford to get everyone through the door from minute go. You know that kind of way.
Oh no,
It's
for
only
sure.
something as you grow the business that you'll actually be able to say to yourself, look, my time is dedicated elsewhere. I'll get the tap fixed. I'll get the sink fixed. That kind of silly things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Can I
So you
ask
put a
you?
lot of hours in.
Yeah, no. On a slight aside there, just on you know, yourself and Sarah running it together.
Hmm.
So I had a business that I used to operate, and I did it with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And the one thing I would take, and don't get me wrong, it was a great relationship, and as a relationship in terms of like a business relationship, it was as good as I think probably we could have had. But going back, I don't think I would ever do that again because I found it was so intensive in terms of like, you know, you're talking all day about the business, and then maybe outside the business, you know, before you go to bed, the last thing you're doing is chatting about the business. It just became a bit too kind of business focused, you know. What's your like? what's your view on that? Like, obviously, being in a relationship and a business relationship.
It is incredibly tough, and I think it's very important for other business owners. And I suppose that's something now that I've been very much so inclined to do recently, and even coming on here with you, is that I feel as though it's so important for small business owners to communicate with each other. I think it's really important to hear similar stories, whether even like without going into major detail, telling another business and stuff like that, saying, "Oh, look, things are a bit tough for us too lately." It
Yeah,
kind of it eases the voices in your mind, and hearing to say that like you found it difficult at times to manage the actual relationship, the loving side of things, being a couple, and then having an actual running a business. It is incredibly difficult, but I suppose at the very beginning we knew it was going to consume a massive portion of our lives, and we had made peace with that. And I think as we've managed to grow the business to a point where there can be other people on deck that day, we kind of draw the line in the sand and say, unless there's an emergency, I don't want to be contacted, because it is very
yeah,
important that I maintain. You go home in the evening and you don't worry about bits and pieces to do with the business. I'll never have that luxury, but on my days off, I would really like it to be my day off. And look, you don't say it in a mean way to any of the manager or the guys that work in there and stuff like that. We're always on hand if anything really needs to be done. But it is about learning to draw a massive line in the sand and say, you're letting yourself down if you step over it. If you let yourself go back into work mode
yeah.
again, then you're completely losing the grip of that work-life balance, which is super important.
Excellent. No, that's deadly, really interesting, and there's loads of other stuff to talk about. Let us just end in this because I want to end the real positive note because
Yeah,
there's loads of good
perfect.
stuff to talk about. You guys have Blade Gastro Pub in Loughrea,
Yeah,
which is really exciting. Like fried
yeah,
chicken burger spot.
yeah.
So, but yeah, what is the, it's still a new company. What is the future maybe hold for you? Do you have any exciting things lined up, or what would your ambitions be?
Ambitions. I suppose your ambitions when you first get into something that you love, whether it be someone always wanted to be an artist or someone always wanted to be a teacher or something like that. I always wanted to do something on my own or with my partner. Lucky enough, she was willing to get in on it with me. It's funny. Your ambitions are through the roof. At the very start, you're like, oh, sky's the limit. I'd love to see a slow roast in every
Yeah,
airport, every train station, this kind of thing. Like someone who to look up to is Pat McDonough. He's absolute
yeah,
massive food entrepreneur, and he has got hotels. He's got all sorts of things now. Which fair play to him. I don't know how there's enough hours in the day when he grows up to that scale. But as you grow the business, you also sort of realize that with taking on more, it does come with a lot more responsibility. Even having had the second shop in that loan, which was the right decision to close it in the end. I know our hand was really forced because of the roadworks that went on for even after we left, another 3 months beyond their deadlines or something like
yeah,
that. So I think it was an incredibly tough time for the whole town of Athlone, and like not that it's absolutely horrible to report, but I'm pretty sure after we left as well, there's at least 6 or 7 other businesses that couldn't make it work in the town due to the disruption. But as I was saying, anyways, about ambitions
yeah.
for the future, having that loan, it really opened our eyes to splitting yourself. It also split myself and Sarah,
Mm,
which actually relationship that actually made things even tougher because it really did feel like having 2 separate jobs. Now I was up here, she was down here. You'd only meet up, and then the only time you did have to discuss the two businesses was off the clock, which, as I was saying, is something that we were really trying not to
yeah,
do. You talk about all the things to do with the business during the daytime, during the working hours. So I'm happy with having everything under one roof for now. I think as well, and I'm trying to end on a positive note, I do think it's an incredibly tough time for food
yeah,
businesses. Like, it would be ridiculous of me not to mention, I saw an article yesterday. I don't know what paper, I won't quote it,
mm,
but it was like VAT 9 reinstatement unjustified. That absolutely blew my mind. I
yeah,
could not think of a better time for the percentage to go back to 9%.
yeah,
Look, I understood it said it would come at a cost of €757 million to reduce it. But there's your justification. Reduce it because that's what you're pulling out of
yeah,
people, an extra €757 million. And at a time then you put our minimum wage up, you put all these, like electricity, it still isn't behaving itself, it's still as expensive as ever, a little bit improved, but it had to, because it nearly got up to 50, 60 cents a unit there for a while.
Yeah,
So, like, I think if someone is doing as good as they can, they're keeping everything tight and they're happy running their business and they've got consistent trade, I think buckle down and keep it like that for the next while, because it is a tough time for businesses at the moment.
deadly. No, no, and you know what? I want this podcast to be a real conversation, like not just
Yeah,
kind of all wishy washy. And the reality is, you know better than anyone, and anybody else that runs a food business out there, it is like properly difficult the last, and not even now, but the last couple of years, like.
yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, Conor, absolute pleasure. We could talk all day, sir. It
We could
is
indeed.
great to chat to you.
Good.
Thanks
I'm
a
glad.
million,
I hope people got something from it, and thanks very much for having me on
for
it.
sure. Thanks, sir. We'll chat to you soon.
Chat, yeah. Bye bye.
Bye now.